Welcome to the At Leisure Podcast. This is a show about sports, video games, movies, and just basically things we do with our leisure time. We're back wrapping up the college football season for 2024. Here with me are just the mainstays of the podcast. We've got Ashton. What's up, dude?
How's it going?
We got Brady.
What's up?
And we've got Jeff.
Hello.
All right, so we've got two Texas Tech fans, a Texas fan, OU fan, and we're going to have some variety of reflections of this season for sure. I'll put time codes below, but we're going to start off just talking about the best parts of the season, things we loved about 2024 college football. It was a crazy year, honestly. It was a great year. And then we'll talk about our teams a little bit, and then we're going to jump to that playoff conversation. So just if you're here just for that, you can skip to that. But I guess to start off, do y'all have anything specific, like your favorite part about this season?
Still a lot of parity this year. Not really, minus Oregon, not really one dominant team. It's, it seems like we got a lot of multiple loss teams, and it was almost like it would have been interesting to see who would have made the 4-team playoff this year, even though we almost had, more than 12 that could have got in now. But like the 4-team itself would have been kind of questionable with who would even got in besides Oregon and Georgia probably.
Yeah. Bama looked mortal this year, and then, teams like Arizona State and Indiana rising, and just a lot of crazy stuff happened at the beginning of the season. What about you guys, Jeff, Brady?
Yeah, I just enjoyed almost every week there was a game that was very exciting to watch. I think week 2, Ohio State, Oregon was a great game. And then from there, it was just at least one, but often several games that were super exciting every week.
Oh, that's just college football in general, Jeff. That's every season.
Well, not like this season, though.
Yeah,
and you've said that yourself.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you. And I'd probably take it a step further. Pretty much every weekend in the noon slot, the 3 o'clock slot, the 7 o'clock slot, there's always a game that it's like, is this team about to really lose to just this random team that's at the bottom of the conference? And there really just wasn't a dominant conference, in my opinion, which we'll get to later. But I just think everyone was like level playing field, and then Oregon's up here. But I could even see Oregon losing in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, especially early, they looked a little shaky. They've kind of stepped it up since then, but we can think about some of those early games. Northern Illinois, the middle of the MAC, and they're beating Notre Dame early in the season. That was crazy. That's got to be probably the craziest outcome of the season, right?
Probably, yeah. That's just the team that's completely off the radar.
Especially coming off a win against Texas A&M, like. They won that, and everyone's like, okay. And then they just go lose to NIU.
Yeah. Oregon shocking the almighty Boise State. Since apparently Boise State's the top team in the country.
Yeah. I think another one is maybe Georgia State beating Vanderbilt. And when it happened, everyone's like, well, Vanderbilt barely is a football team. But then Vanderbilt ended up going and beating Bama later, and then nearly beating Texas and Missouri. And they had 6 wins for the first time in forever. Yeah. So it's like Vanderbilt actually didn't suck. So it's crazy that they lost to Georgia State, which I think goes back to your point, Brady, like parity across the league. You don't normally get an SEC team losing to Vanderbilt in general, really.
That Vandy Alabama game, it was so exciting for Vandy to finally get that win. It was fun.
That was what came to my mind that game, because that was right after Bama in that first half against Georgia looked like unbeatable. And then they blew the lead in that second half, barely won, and then lose to Vandy the next week.
Yeah, Bama was so weird this year. And it's like, I think so much of it, they put so much of it on Jalen Milroe. And it's like, when you put it all on one guy, if he's got an off night, then your team is just going to struggle. It's kind of crazy how inconsistent they were. And it kind of just goes back to show, like, man, Nick Saban, he was the real deal. You can't just have elite talent. You have to also have elite talent and a good coach. So
yeah,
and I'm not saying DeBoer is not a good coach, but obviously Saban's just in a class of his own.
Yeah, elite talent, elite coach.
Yeah,
a good coach will go win you 9 games still with elite talent. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of some other crazy stuff. Oklahoma State beating Arkansas and then not winning another game the rest of the season. That was wild.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that was going to happen. If you had told me at the beginning of the year they're about to talk about firing Gundy. Like,
Hey,
I thought they'd be in the Big 12 championship.
I know. I was going to say the last podcast on the timeline was at the beginning of the season. You and me picked Oklahoma State to win the conference because it's basically the same team that came back.
Yeah.
It's incredible to have the same team that went to the Big 12 championship game last year to literally not win a single Big 12 game.
I don't know, Bowman's getting too old. He's aging out, sitting in that corner.
He absolutely is aging out.
Hey, I tried to tell y'all.
And then we can just kind of get to the Big 12 in general because, like, talk about parity, and there was parity in the other leagues. Like, this is the most crazy the SEC's been where there hasn't been a dominant team. Like, Georgia won the SEC, and they had 2 losses. That's kind of unheard of in the SEC, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the Big 12 was, like, flip-flopped from what they were expecting. So I'm going to give you the Big 12 preseason rankings, and then I'm going to compare it to the actual rankings. So, number 1, you had Utah, who finished 12th in the Big 12.
They were my pick.
Yeah, I mean, they were a lot of people's pick, and like we said it on the first podcast, all the media pundits they don't pay attention to the Big 12, and so they all were just like, yeah, Utah, next question, and immediately I was like, I don't think Utah's gonna. I don't think they're gonna be bad, but they're not gonna run the conference right off the bat. But they were way worse than anyone expected. And talk about aging out. Poor Cam Rising, another year where he didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got Kansas State, who wasn't as good as they were expecting to be. I think they finished,
tied for 8th or something.
Yeah, 8th. Oklahoma State was picked to 3rd, and we already talked about them. They were 16th. Kansas was picked 4th, and they were – Kansas kind of turned it on at the end of the year. They blew up a lot of Big 12 hopes of getting 2 teams in the playoffs because I think with all the chaos that happened, the Big 12 definitely could have gotten 2 in this year, and then Kansas came in and beat BYU and beat Iowa State. And
they screwed that up a little bit.
Beat Colorado and just ruined it up for everybody in the Big 12. But probably means that they didn't belong in the playoffs anyways, to be honest.
And they didn't even make a bowl, though, right?
I was going to say, but they didn't make a bowl. They were bad.
They got smoked by who did they get smoked by at the end?
It was
Baylor, yeah.
Who ended up being
might be the best Big 12 team at the moment. Yeah, and that's the thing is the Big 12 was just beating up on each other all season. Baylor was picked 12th, and they ended 5th. Arizona was picked 5th, and they ended 15th. UCF was picked 8th. And they ended 13th. So it's just a lot of that. The only one that was pretty much dead on was Cincinnati. Everyone else was just way fluctuated from where they were picked. I guess Tech was kind of close. We were picked 9th, and we ended 6th, 7th. But just so much parity in that league. That's why it's so much fun to watch. But honestly, it just kind of reflected the whole college football landscape this year.
I will say I almost felt bad for Oklahoma State, but as an OU fan, I did not. I actually relished that there was people more miserable than me.
Fair.
I guess we could talk about 2, Arizona State and Indiana's rise. Because they were the 2 unexpected teams that kind of popped off in their conferences to the point where they're in the playoffs. Man, did y'all see Arizona State coming?
No,
definitely not.
Can't say I did.
You could kind of see it with Indiana, though, right? Because of how easy their schedule was.
Yeah. I thought they'd make a bowl game. I didn't think they'd. Yeah, because of their coach, I thought they'd be okay, but not. I guess some of the teams on our schedule I thought might be better than they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, they lost the one tough team they've played. So, it was like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're an interesting case.
I definitely want to be playing them round 1.
Didn't they beat Michigan? Did they beat Michigan?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who beat Michigan. Ohio State? I mean, that's kind of a weird little triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, though, was the only other team in the Power 4 that they played that had more than 6 wins.
Yeah.
Their other 10 wins were teams that were 6-6 or lower. Most of them only had 4 wins. Pretty crazy easy schedule there. So,
but they did what good teams do, and when they played them, they normally didn't even let them hang around. They just kind of whooped them.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of holding some merit, but it's just weird. It's a weird schedule. I don't know how you're in a power conference and draw that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be a common thing this year. Like with teams not, or for a while there, like even in the SEC, it was like I don't know how these teams haven't played each other. But like the ACC, Miami, Clemson, and SMU didn't play each other somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and I think we'll get into that when we talk about the playoffs because comparing these records, these schedules, like impossible.
Yeah,
It's impossible. But Curtis Rourke, their quarterback, pretty impressive year for him. It's pretty cool because it's his 6th season, and he was at the Ohio State Bobcat football team for the first 5 years. So it's a cool story for him to be able to just move on over to the Power 4 and then all of a sudden be thrust into the playoffs in his last season. He had nearly 3,000 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. And again, he's not playing quality opponents, but that's especially in the Big Ten. That's great numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these teams, the crazy thing about them is last year, Indiana was 3-9, and then they're ending this season 11-1. Last year, Arizona State was 3-9, and they're ending 11-2. So, I think that why do y'all think that happens?
Portal.
Yeah. So nowadays, portal and NIL would be easy to make a team in 1 year at least.
Yeah, and I don't know about Indiana, but I definitely know Cam Scadaboo, the running back for Arizona State. He's a transfer from Sacramento State in the Big Sky. Jaden Tyson is a transfer from Colorado, who was their best receiver. And then their quarterback was a transfer from Michigan State. So it's in 1 year they built a team, I guess 1 or 2 years, they built a team that was not even the same one that lost 3-9.
And Indiana's, he brought over a lot of his dudes from James Madison, from the Signetti. He brought a lot of that team with him to Indiana, but not that you'd think they'd be able to compete in the Big Ten. But there's still, or that's who he brought with him at least.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Arizona State was probably a little bit better of a team than their record showed last year because they're generally maybe a slightly above average team, if not kind of average. But they're a solid program, I think, and even not having that great of a year last year can turn it around. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think they were competitive in some of the games. Well, and it was a couple years ago. I mean, Daniels, LSU's quarterback, he played for Arizona State before he transferred out.
Yeah, and they had Ayuk at the same time, who's a star in the NFL. But that was with Herm Edwards, and they had that infraction where they got hit with some fines, and then they had restrictions on their scholarship count and stuff like that. So Kenny Dillingham is their coach, who was, when they hired him, he was the youngest head coach in the power programs. And man, he turned this thing around way faster than anyone really expected. And so props to him on that. They ended the season beating 16th ranked Kansas State, 14th ranked BYU, and then their rival Arizona, and then winning the Big 12 championship against 16th ranked Ohio State. And obviously those rankings were at the time, but it's they literally had to win all of those games to make it to where they are now, and they just went on a tear.
They dominated.
I didn't see them
in the Big 12 championship.
They're super balanced too. They had the 36th overall defense, which is up from 109th last year, and then the 37th overall offense, which is up from 124th last year. That's an insane jump.
Yeah, and that and the combination of the Big 12 cannibalizing itself, it ended up being perfect for them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We talked about the transfer portal. I guess I do want to ask y'all, what do y'all think contributes to how much parity happened this year? Because this sport is different, and it ebbs and flows in how it is played and kind of the perception of every team and conference. So I just wondering what y'all think about the parity this year, and if that means good things going forward, or if it means things are going to change, or do you think what do you think this means for football?
Man, I think a combination of that and so many good teams in the same two conferences makes a huge deal. Because we looked at the beginning of the year, there's no way Georgia and Bama go undefeated with who all they got to play. Even if Georgia's going to be really good, having to play away at, I can't remember who all they played away at, but we looked at the beginning of the year, it was having to play all these teams back to back. There's no shot to go undefeated. And then also, like you talked about earlier with Saban, just it's hard to be consistent, especially when you're playing good teams like that. But yeah, which I guess was, and it's impressive that Oregon is undefeated, which I mean they haven't played everybody in the Big Ten, but still, like they've beaten the good teams they have played. So
yeah, I agree with that. I'll add, we already discussed, but the portal, just if players aren't playing somewhere and they're like a good player, they'll just go somewhere where they're going to play, and that's automatically just going to increase the level of other teams.
Yeah, it's been a good time seeing the transfer portal and how it's just impacted. I would say it's impacted the lower level schools a lot more than the upper level schools, because first of all, if you have like a great player and you're at maybe a Mountain West school, you might lose him to the portal. But like we said, Arizona State and I'm trying
Indiana.
to blank. Who else did we just say? Yeah, Indiana. They just flipped their program around. Like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gives hope to a lot of teams that maybe are struggling right now. And I feel like before the transfer portal, you're 3-9. It's like, how many years is it going to take us to get to maybe being 11-2? I mean, for Tech, I don't think I've had that hope really since we lost Mike Leach. But now, like, every school has that hope. You're just one good coaching hire away from having a decent roster and a chance to compete for your conference's title. So it's just been fun to see this year how it played out.
Yeah, on your point, Jeff, the transfer portal is like the great equalizer. Players who aren't properly rated. Because the rating system is great, but it's only so far. Like, you can't watch every high school player everywhere. Like, Cam Ward wasn't even rated, and it's because he played on a team that ran the I formation. Like, they didn't throw the ball at all, so he was not rated properly. And in the past, he might have gotten missed, but now he can move up through the ranks all the way through to Washington State to Miami in the end. And so that is happening all over the place. Same with Scadaboo, same with all these players who aren't properly rated are able to move up to those power schools, where in the past they weren't doing that. So then I think that makes it equal in the sense of, like, even some of those lower schools, like you said, Brady, are getting some talent that's going to go NFL level talent that maybe weren't, or that were overlooked by the star rating system. I think also, even the ones that aren't going to be NFL players, you get these older players that have played in these other smaller conferences and have developed there, and then they get poached by these mid-tier schools, and they might not be that 5-star player, but they're so much more mature that they're able to compete with them, especially at the line. Like, I see it in the Big 12 a lot, where they'll poach players from those smaller schools that are older, like 5 and 6 year seniors now, and they can compete with these freshmen that are really good, but they're young, and it's kind of like it's leveling that playing field out for sure. And then, you also have that 4-star on Bama who's not getting playing time, he hoped. Now he can move to a rival school that's going to pay him the same or more, and he's going to get playing time. So the mega rosters are starting to thin out, to where in the past those players are waiting, but now it feels like all of the best players theoretically are playing now. No one's waiting, and I think that has made it so much parity in the game now that wasn't there in the past. And personally, I think I like it. Like, I've enjoyed it, and I know that things are getting shadier and shadier with, like, the money, and, like, you're going to see kids that are promised things and they're not getting paid, and it's going to have to get regulated. But right now, I think for the competitive sake, it's been a net positive.
Yeah, the portal and the portal is fun when it helps your team, and it's not so fun when it dismantles your team.
Said the OU fan.
Yeah, speaking from experience. And with NIL, I mean, I think just the money. There needs to be some regulations there, because it's. Yeah. I mean, it's out of hand. But
I think you got to have like a salary cap almost with how they're going to have to. Because it came out that Kansas quarterback Daniels is coming back, but it didn't say he's returning. It just said he's agreed to a new deal.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Yeah. Well,
1-year contract.
I've been listening to some stuff, and it is going to be like contracts now. Like, you can sign a guy out of a high school for like a year on this much money, or 2 years on this much money. And so I don't know what it'll look like, but I think they said stuff is going to be enacted in like June of next year.
Yeah.
That's kind of the time period where
and they're putting a limit on your roster, right? You can only have so many
Yeah.
people. So like you're kind of getting
they're
rid of
going
the
to cut it
walk-on.
down a ton. So
I mean,
I think it's going to look a lot more like the NFL.
Yeah, it's kind of turning into like a minor league, NFL minor league.
Well, another thing is like they used to have a limit on the transfer portal, like how many times you can just enter it. Now you can just go as many times as you freaking want, which I don't know why they changed that. Like that would impact some things, I think, as far as you can leave whenever you want now, it seems like, which I mean, I get it, but also that would level some stuff out.
Yeah, it feels like the players have all the power, and it's kind of strange. And I think it needs to be like more evened out, but it's overcorrected because at first it felt like the player had no
now it's just
power.
The freedom.
Yeah, so
complete chaos.
We can find a happy medium.
And OU, and I think I saw another school, I can't remember, but I imagine more schools are going to be hiring like a general manager type role that is just kind of managing all this portal money, NIL stuff, which is kind of wild that it's even a thing. But
yeah, and I don't think Tech quite has a GM role currently. I mean, we heard Stanford hired Andrew Luck to be their GM.
Oh, that's who it was.
Talking about.
Stanford, yeah.
But Tech has a scouting department now where it's like literally all those coaches' job is to scout and to recruit. And the head coach comes in for like the end to meet the player, but they're not involved in the recruiting process that much. And so that'll be interesting to see if that catches on. We've had mixed results so far, but it's only been a few years. So it's just kind of a new way to play college football. On the field, I think it's been good. And I mean, you see it too, because all these newcomers are competing in those new conferences immediately, like Texas.
Yeah,
beating
the SMU
SEC
is a big one.
SMU.
Usually those moving up a level.
State.
Yeah. Oregon winning the Big Ten their first year in it kind of shows.
With SMU too, like usually those don't like moving up a tier, kind of like usually the first year you're not going to be able to just compete right off the bat, but to take in, I think they act like they had like 10 Miami transfers onto the team. So I mean, they got some of those players that you bring in, power players that can help you win. It'll also probably affect like coaches, kind of their length on the wiggle room they get, like with expected to win in this amount of time, because now you can technically win in a year, if you bring in a good team.
And your boosters are paying for it. They're like, hey, we just spent, X amount of dollars. This roster is technically the best money can buy, and you've won 7 games. That's not good enough anymore. Which, man, I don't know. Signing up to be a college head coach right now, no thanks. I'm good.
No. Do you think like head coach salary, we're going to see a decline in that because more money is going to go to players?
Man, I don't know.
And with the like what you were saying, Ashton, like, well, if you don't do good in a year or 2 years, and it's hard to. There's only so much money. You can't keep buying people out. I mean, some schools could.
That's what you think.
Some schools could, but not every. Like most schools.
Or you could just be like Dabo and not worry about the transfer portal.
Yeah, well,
we'll see how that goes for him.
He made the playoffs.
Yeah, he made the playoffs. Interesting thing Kenny Dillingham did. He got a bonus for all the success he's been having, and every bonus he gets, he divvies it out to the coaches and players. So like that might be a thing where they start like, hey, incentivizing the players, to do better, and the coaches. I don't know. It's all weird. It's weird, but
yeah, I guess a couple 100,000 isn't enough incentive for some players. I don't know.
I'll play a little harder.
Couldn't be me, but
don't give me a little more salary. Oh, you want me to play in the bowl game? All right, let's go. 500,000.
Seriously though, I do think they're going to start paying the players to play in the bowl games.
I don't like the thought of it, but I guess it's a new normal, so I'm trying to adjust to it. But, or just the thought of what it used to be, or I say used to be. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah, no, college football is changing so fast.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer the bowls that aren't the playoff are really going to be relevant, though.
Yeah,
they're already almost not.
They're still fun to watch though. Like
they're fun to watch. I agree.
I love more football, and like when you turn it on, you might be watching guys they didn't play this year, but they're going to play next year, maybe not even for your team, but it's like it's like guys that are like their quality, they're getting their first shot. So it's the variance on like those games is just so drastic that it's fun to me anyways. Mm-hmm. But I agree, like you're going to get to the point where people stop playing if it's not the playoffs, which I hate that. But
yeah, because I've been used to it. Bowl season was so entertaining just because everybody's playing. And well, that's why I was for the expanded playoffs. And originally I wasn't, but I was like, if all the bowls are not going to mean anything, I guess, might as well.
Shoot, I'm almost like expand it more, but maybe cut some of the season
teams.
short. I don't know, or
64. Come on,
just make it basketball.
I will say,
like, put rules on like your schedules too. I think that's what we need. Like you have to play this many Power 4 teams, or
I will say. I think making a bowl is still kind of a good benchmark of like, okay, it was at least
not as a disaster.
Yeah.
And like Brett said, they're just fun to watch. It's like a little sneak peek into next year because most of the people that are leaving aren't playing anyways. So
they're near glorified scrimmages now. Yeah. But I don't care. I love them, and I still also love because it's like when like a Big 12 school plays an SEC school. Like there's the whole like, whose conference is better? And it's like, well, even if these aren't the starters, these are the players on those teams. And it's like, this is your depth in each conference, like there's still relevancy to them playing each other. I don't know. I still think that's kind of fun.
I will say it's made my family, and then I have one of my friend groups, we do the Bowl Mania, Capital One Bowl Mania, and it's made that a lot more interesting because there's no rhyme or reason to picking who you think is going to win.
No, you got to do your research and be like, all right, who opted out?
Is this third stringer better than this third stringer?
Well, that's a lot of work, though.
That's what we do on this podcast, Jeff. We study these things. It's important to us.
I'm a guest.
Oh, that's true. Last thing I want to touch on before we get into that bracket is, man, how about this Heisman race this year compared to last year where it was like, man, I don't know if any of these guys really deserve the Heisman, but we got to pick one. This year we've got two that I'm like, man, they would win it on most years. Who would y'all's pick be?
Travis Hunter.
I don't know.
Say GT.
Who'd you say?
GT or Boise State running back.
Yeah, I like Genty.
I would pick Travis also. So look at that. We're split 50-50. Exactly what I expected. All right, let's hear. Do y'all have a case for Genty, or do you need me to give you the case for Genty?
He's got less snaps, I'm sure. So.
Dang straight. If it's a snaps award, Travis by a mile.
I mean, I'd have to look. I'm pretty sure he's got what, 30-something touchdowns combined, like 26 rushing touchdowns, I think.
He's got 30, I think, on the dot.
30 on the dot.
30 total touchdowns, 2,497 rushing yards. And if they play this 14th game and he does well, he might surpass Barry Sanders' 1988 season. But, Barry Sanders did it in 11 games, so it's not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
He averages.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say he averages 7.3 yards per carry and is averaging 190.7 yards per game. And he hasn't had a single game with fewer than 125 rushing yards this season, which is like that efficiency. 7.3 yards per carry is crazy.
So probably like the biggest argument I could give you, one or the other, is Heisman is supposed to be the guy who like elevates the team the most, makes them like this much better. I truly believe if you switch Travis Hunter and Genty, I don't think Boise State is 11-1. I don't think that Travis Hunter's carrying them. He gives them a whole different aspect to their team, but I don't think he's the guy that's putting them in the playoffs. I mean, he couldn't get Colorado to the playoffs. I think if you switch them, Genty, hold on. I think if you switch them, I think Genty's going to add a new dynamic to their team that they didn't have. And the receivers at Colorado are really good anyways. So Shadur, I mean, I think he elevates Travis as well as Travis elevates the team. So I just think Genty's more important to the team than Travis Hunter was this year. I think Travis is great, but that's where I go with it.
Pretty much agree with him. And really, the running back stats nowadays are kind of more impressive because I say more impressive. It's the same as it used to be, but it's more of a dying breed. You know what I mean? As far as just being able to, like, compared
Making
to
a
Barry
bit of a
Sanders just a
comeback,
while
though.
ago. You know? Yeah, no, it is. And in college, it's kind of hit and miss because sometimes teams still play like that. But, yeah, really his argument on what he was saying about having a bigger impact on your team is kind of why I'm more in that boat to me. And I don't know, your argument on Hunter may change my mind, but most of the stats I've seen are just the snap count thing that he edges him out. So, but
all right, Jeff, you want me to take the lead here, or do you have anything?
Let me just say what I want to say because you'll probably have more to your argument. But to me personally, well, first of all, let me say I like that the two top guys for the award are not a quarterback this year. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But my main argument for Hunter is that it is rare to have a guy that can play that high of a level on both sides of the ball. And I just think that having the skill set to do both defense and offense, even if it's like the closest positions to each other, like wide receiver and corner, because those are it's two different mindsets, I think, to play on those sides of the ball. But he does it both sides at a high level. That's my...
Not just a high level, an elite level.
Well, yeah, elite.
He is the only person to log over 150 snaps on both offense and defense. So there's your snap thing, Ashton, which honestly, behind a quarterback, I don't know how you can contribute more than playing every single snap of a football game. So I know people roll their eyes at that, but to me, like, that literally is doing the most that you can do. It's super impressive, and like to imagine, like, to be elite at both things. So here's, as a receiver, he's got 92 receptions for 1,152 yards, which is 12 and a half yards per catch. He's got 14 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown, which leads the Power 4 and is second in Colorado's history. He ranks second in the Power 4 and 5th in all of football in receiving yards per game and receptions per game. So those stats alone put him in, like, he would be like 5th in the Heisman rankings if he was just a receiver, right? Like, crazy good numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Colorado faced 6 teams ranked in the top half of pass defense. And so that means that he was doing it against really good pass defenses. Now, I see Ashton rolling his eyes there, but I'm telling you, like, this year in the Big 12, more people ran the ball effectively than they did pass the ball effectively, except for when they played Texas Tech. So,
and Oklahoma State.
And so, like, I really do think, like, it. I don't know. What do you feel about PFF? What do y'all feel about them?
I mean, I normally like them.
Yeah, I know some people don't like them. They think they're bogus. I like them.
Depends on the stats sometimes. Sometimes there'll be some shocking stuff on there.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's shocking, but I think overall, as a general rule, it's pretty good. These are people that literally just watch that player and then grade them based on every single snap they play, which probably takes a lot of effort for someone who's watching Hunter's tape. Anyways, his PFF grade is 89.4, which leads all players with over 450 snaps on offense, just on offense. So, like, literally, he is graded as the best receiver in college football, has the numbers that would back him up to be maybe the best college football receiver. And then let's go to the defensive side, where he's got 31 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions. He's only allowed 22 receptions against him on 39 targets and only allowed 1 touchdown all season. He ranks 3rd in Power 4 and 8th in FBS for passes defended and interceptions. So not only is he an elite receiver, he's also an almost elite corner. I would say he's probably not as good a corner as he is receiver, but he might be. It's just corner is just a much harder position to grade than receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also just a very good corner. And, if you draft this guy, I don't know if you want him to play both sides of the ball, but I would give it a shot because you would literally be drafting a first-round corner and a first-round receiver in one player.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And to have that effect on a football team, like, y'all are saying, like, Ashton Jeanty is this is the reason that Boise State is in the playoffs. And, I wouldn't disagree with that. But I would say their competition, I think, is considerably lower than the Big 12. Like, I know people argue that, but I think that group of 5, that Mountain West competition is definitely lower.
Who's the higher seed, Boise or?
Yeah, well, I got some problems with the committee, but I think
how many rushing yards do you have on Oregon? That's my next question.
So all that to say, and I got most of that stuff from like ESPN and Sports Center, so it's not like I did my own research really, but I did research between the two, and I'm like, I think I would pick Travis Hunter with the stats that I've gathered there.
Yeah.
I will say I watched several of the Colorado games, and just some of the catches that he made offensively, I mean, they helped decide some of the games they won. And so I think, to Brady's point,
for sure,
I think he would be an extreme factor on a Boise State.
And like you said, Jeff, like he had touchdowns that won them games, but he also had, like, against Baylor, he made the fumble. He caused the fumble that won them the game against Baylor in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Like he made plays like that on both sides of the ball. So I don't know if he would have taken Boise to the college football playoffs.
Boise just won games by a large enough margin because GNT just ran all over people, so they didn't have to.
I don't know. Did you see that? Did you see the Wyoming game where they barely won by 3 points?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many points they lose?
The last thing that I would probably say, first of all, Jeff, I do agree that if Travis Hunter was on Boise State, he would make them very good. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think Travis Hunter is great also. I do think that any other year, these two guys probably win it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Which has been so fun to watch both of them. Like I'm turning on every Boise State game. I'm turning on every Colorado game because I want to watch these two guys play.
I was on the Travis Hunter hype train until I really started watching them every week towards the end of the year. When they played Tech, I felt like the reason we had a chance to win the game is because they start stat padding for Travis Hunter at the end of games on offense. There's so many times they just start forcing him the ball at the end of each game. And it's like, I just didn't respect the game at the end of their games. I did not respect what he was doing. I felt like it was cheap for the stats. And then I also felt like Dion was just like, well, we're up 2 possessions. We're just going to give Travis the ball every play. And I mean, his other receivers were so good. I felt like it was a little cheap to the rest of the team, but I'm sure they're happy for Travis. But I just felt like you're putting your team in harm's way opposed to just winning the game the right way.
I will say that a lot of times my biggest gripe with teams is they don't get their best players the football. I think about Ohio State against Michigan, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Give your receivers the ball. Get your playmakers the ball. So, I can't blame them for throwing it to the guy they think is the best player in college football.
I just felt like you were stat padding at the end of games.
Yeah, that's fair.
And what about giving Ginty a few more touchdowns when they're blowing people out like Ashton said?
Ginty sat when they blew people out.
Their games are pretty close,
Yeah. And I also just think we might be arguing the nature of the positions as well, because a running back, as much as we like to dog the running back position, that has such a huge impact on the football game, as opposed to a receiver that is just so dependent on the pass being thrown to them on the corner, when it's like, okay, if I shut down my guy, I mean, the other half of the field is still wide open, so.
Also, a running back can protect your defense. And so that's how I would combat that he plays 2 ways. Well, Ginty basically plays 2 ways. Keeps their offense on the field a long time. So
it's true. I like both these guys. They both seem like nice guys. And so Travis seems a little more showboaty, but it doesn't seem like a bad dude. I'll be happy with both of these guys, whoever wins this. Any other thoughts on that before we jump into the championship weekend and breaking down the bracket?
Scadaboo said he's the best running back in the nation, so just throwing it out there, I guess.
Well,
he played like it.
Did you want to run through our favorite moments for our teams real quick?
Oh, yeah. We can talk about that.
All right. Well, I'll keep mine quick because as an OU fan, there was a lot of not favorite moments. But my favorite moment was not just winning, but handling, spanking the Alabama Crimson Tide, not even allowing them to score
Keeping
a
them out of the
touchdown.
playoffs.
Keeping them out of the playoffs. I was at the game. I lost my voice when Kip Lewis got that pick six. It was crazy. That was my favorite moment of a OU season, far and away.
I got a few questions for you then. How do you feel about Jackson Arnold?
I wish him well at his new school.
Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about Brent Venables?
I like Brent still. I'm not ready to give up on him. I think some OU fans are, but the majority are willing to at least give him next year. But I have always liked him. We'll see. He's increased our defense tremendously. And so if this new offensive coordinator, Arbuckle, if that proves to be a good hire, and he was involved with that. So if he's getting things on the right track, then I have no problem with him. But I think this year is the next season will be kind of a test, a make or break season for him, I believe.
Do you think that this team was bad, or it was because they joined the SEC that they were 6-6? Bad for OU standards.
Yeah. I think there's a combination of factors. One, the SEC is a tougher conference, and we were already kind of a weaker OU team going into that. Two, our top 5 receivers have been hurt pretty much all season. That's never helpful to a team. I'm not saying it's the sole reason, but it definitely added to our troubles.
Yeah.
And then there's just some things that needed to be worked on. We didn't have a great offensive coordinator. We had a young, inexperienced offensive line. It was a weaker OU team for sure without injuries, and that didn't help, as well as some of our coaching. So,
all right, Ashton, your
hot
turn.
seat there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did put him on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Charlie Strong era of Oklahoma. No, just kidding. Texas was, I mean, we're still alive, so that's a good thing. As far as standouts on the year, I mean, not too many. I guess beating the rivals, is a good. Or I'd rather win the SEC than beat the rivals, but that's a nice thing along the ride. Wish they could have pulled out one of those Georgia games, but glad they've been pretty much, minus the running back position, fairly healthy throughout the year, minus Quinn, getting injured here and there. But Sark slowly winning me over a little bit, if we can.
Yeah.
Not quite there yet. Still need a national championship, but we're getting there.
Finally getting rid of that all brakes, no gas.
Yeah. I've got some gripes, but we'll save that for another podcast. But yeah, no, the defense played really good this year, so I'm happy with that, because last year that was kind of a iffy thing at some points. You know what I mean? Against like Washington, and kind of didn't. Our secondary got exposed in that one.
Are you worried about that in the playoffs? Because what Jeff said about the SEC, I agree with on the whole. Of like, the SEC is a better conference than the Big 12, but I don't think that your schedule y'all played is better than the Big 12.
No, I wouldn't bet. I think it's better than the Big 12s, but it's not. It's not the best in the SEC, no doubt. But Big 12, I don't think is a great conference though. Like, as far as who's in there right now, I don't know how good they are.
I guess that's fair, but y'all's conference, y'all didn't beat anyone who had more than 8 wins the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, comparing like A&M, like if we're saying Notre Dame's a solid team, and I know they have bad loss, but I was saying, I think that's a good win, as far as I think the defense is fine. It's more the offense that I'd be worried about on playoff time, because they've kind of, these last few weeks, they've been kind of stagnant, a little iffy.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. I've heard a lot of people asking for Manning to start. Yeah. You're not there yet, are you?
No, well, that was one thing I was talking about. Like, I think he kind of screwed up that one game. He pulled Quinn and then put him right back. I think it was Georgia the first time we played him. Mm-hmm. Like, you just got to accept that's one of those games and just take the butt kicking, But then to throw Arch in and then put Quinn right back in the next drive or whatever, that's just, you're trying to almost ruin the team there almost. Like, it didn't make much sense to me. So
split the team.
If you're going to make the switch, it's time to, just go with it. Don't go back and forth in the same game, So I'm not quite there. I think throwing him into that environment probably not good, But
yeah.
And Quinn hadn't looked great, but also I think it's just some of the offenses. I think they could improve some stuff.
Yeah. Man, y'all are in the playoffs though. I'm super jealous. I wish we could experience that as a Tech fan. Mm-hmm. Maybe someday. Maybe we could be Arizona State.
I think it can be.
All right, Brady. Give us some Tech.
Do you want to go first for Tech? I got a few. No. So if you have,
give it. No, you get us going, and then I'll clean up anything that I.
Okay. Well, probably first for me would be the Cincinnati game. I got to go to that one. It was just really fun. We kind of held like a two possession lead the whole time. It was just a great atmosphere. And then we got a pick 6 in the fourth quarter, and that was electric. That was probably my first one, mostly because I was at that game more than anything. The Iowa State game was awesome. It was very stressful, but the last play that we scored a touchdown on with Taj Brooks, I love that play design. Zach Kitley, he's had all of his haters, but that play design was awesome. Jalen Conyers, it felt like he was blocking for 5 minutes on the edge there. It was not, obviously it was nowhere near that, but that's what it felt like. Just hold the block, and he did the whole way. And then, man, it just felt good that last game of the year to actually blow someone out. All of our wins are 1 possession, maybe 2 possession at most. And then we just came in and just whooped West Virginia and just said, all right, great way to end the season right there. So
yeah, and we went 8-4, so we were better than OU, not as good as Texas. And honestly, in the podcast that the last one that we did, I said if we're 8-4, I'll be happy. But it's all dependent on the Washington State game. And we got absolutely smoked in the Washington State game. And I thought, oh, no, this season is going to be terrible. And we salvaged it. 8-4, pretty great. I mean, we're still climbing up under McGuire, I feel like. He's doing things that previous Tech coaches haven't really done. He's had a winning record in conference his first 3 seasons. He beat OU and Texas in his first season there in the same year. He's just doing good work. He's given us top 25 classes back-to-back years. This year we're not, but I think that's okay because I think we're going to hit the transfer portal hard. Losing both our coordinators is a problem. One by firing, which is more of a problem than one by getting promoted to a head coach in Kitley. And I think we'll miss Kitley. I think Red Raider fans are going to be disappointed when we are not as good on offense. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I've always been a Kitley defender. I think he had some boneheaded decisions, but I don't think anyone's ever happy with their offensive coordinator 24/7. And so I don't know. I think it's been a good year, and I hope our new hires can be good. And it was a fun year, honestly, as a Tech fan, because we don't get many 8-win seasons. So, and I think part of it,
coaster though,
it was a roller coaster. And I think part of it, like Ashton said, is the Big 12 is not as good as some of the other conferences. So I feel like we have a chance to win every single game, and maybe that'll help keep us on this like upward trajectory. But I also don't think the Big 12 is as bad as everyone made it out to be this year, especially the committee. So I'm excited moving forward. All right. What game are y'all looking forward to most in the bracket? So since we're not a visual podcast, it's kind of hard to like break it down for you. But first round, we got Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU versus Penn State, Indiana versus Notre Dame. Of those 4 games, which one are y'all most excited for?
I think the first 2 will be good. As far as which one the most, I'd say Tennessee, Ohio State's almost a toss-up probably. It's probably that one.
I'm pretty interested in the Texas-Clemson game. I don't know what it'll be like, but I just think that'll be an interesting one to watch after Texas's last game and Clemson's last game. Just see if Texas can bounce back offensively. See if Quinn Ewers can step in and lead that offense the way that they need him to. But yeah, I think the SMU Penn State game will be interesting. I'm excited for all of them. I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for all of them. The Tennessee Ohio State, that one is theoretically going to be the most toss-up, closest one, but Honestly, I feel like any of them can go any way. Maybe not. I think Notre Dame will probably win that one, but
Actually, you're gonna have to root against our boy Dabo in his
I know.
playoff
Hate
debut.
to,
It's
hate to
12
do
team.
it to him, but hey, he made the playoff. That's off. That's off to him. But yeah, I know.
Man, like last second buzzer
Bundy's
beater for
catching
them
fire, I'm
too.
gonna have to pull for Dabo a little bit. But if he had any other draw in here minus Texas or Ohio State, I'd root for him. But
Yeah,
it's not happening.
I'll root for him. Don't worry.
For me, I definitely think it's going to be the Clemson-Texas game I'll be most interested in because Texas, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like they haven't had any like defining win yet. If they beat Clemson, obviously that'll feel pretty definite. And they've been good against, Georgia, but they haven't beat them. Mm-hmm. And they're a little bit like Boise State in the sense of like their best case is their losses, where they're like playing with the best team in the SEC and probably could have beat them. Probably too. It should have beat them if they had any red zone offense. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting. And it's like Dabo's been there and won, and Sark has been there and he's been there once and he lost.
Not one.
So yeah.
Well, and I definitely don't feel confident about it. Like with that, confident they'll win. Yeah, but I would have much rather had, Arizona State, SMU, whoever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was hoping they would somehow, even with how it played out, like Clemson would jump SMU. We could play them in the first round. But or Indiana. Yeah.
And we talked about it in the last podcast. Clemson still has the big dogs in recruiting stars, anyways. Like their preseason strength of roster was like super high. So it's like if you're Texas, you're like, man, we know we can overpower some of these other guys. This team might have the athletes to match us. They just haven't played as good. And I think y'all have a better quarterback than Clemson. So, and y'all have some better players as well. But I'm with you. I'm excited to see that game. The one I know the least about is Indiana Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, if I was betting, I would bet Notre Dame to win big, just because Indiana has. We talked about Indiana as well, just having such a weak strength of schedule, and the only team they played that was good, they got kind of smoked. So SMU Penn State, that's another one where the only reason I would maybe hesitate, because on paper Penn State should be way better than SMU, but Penn State loses all their big games.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times they're not favored. Like most of the time they are not favored in those games. So it's kind of a little more understandable, but they are going to be heavily favored in this game. And if they don't win this, like that is going to be disastrous for that program.
Yeah. It brings the question, does old Jimmy Franklin know how to coach big games?
I would say no already. Even if he beats SMU, but it'll bring more in the question.
Oh, no, usually it's against a tougher team. You know what I mean? Like Michigan or Ohio State, So, but I think, especially being in the cold there since they're hosting, I think it's going to be a long night for SMU, but I might be wrong. But the weather, I think, will impact that one a little bit.
Well, I think SMU showed some grit in the ACC championship. Like, they didn't give up. They they could have won or tied it at least.
Should have gone into overtime.
Yeah.
It didn't. So.
I don't have much to say about the Notre Dame Indiana game, except for I'm excited for the all Indiana matchup. It's going to be a crazy day in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Indiana can play with them or not. I don't know if they can. I hope they can, since I don't got any.
Yeah, I
don't care who wins that one.
Games.
I'd be all right with them beating. Yeah, I'd be all right with them playing with them, beating them. But and they might. I mean, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and I guarantee Indiana's better than them, probably. So probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say on these games. I think for Clemson versus Texas, the QBs are going to tell the story. Like I said, I think Ewers is better than Klubnik, but in the games that Clemson wins, Klubnik has had 34 touchdowns and 3 picks. In all the games that they've lost, he's had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, an average 5 yards per throw. So it's like, if he's playing good, they win. If he's playing bad, they lose. And that is the case with a lot of quarterbacks. But like SMU, that is not the case with SMU. Like Jennings threw like 6 interceptions one game against Duke, and they still won. It's like Clemson goes how Klubnik goes, and Klubnik loses the big games, kind of like James Franklin. And also in this game, who's going to be able to run the ball to help their quarterback? Texas couldn't run it against Georgia, and it cost them, especially in the red zone, like I hinted at earlier. But can Clemson run it against Texas, who's got basically an elite defense? Texas leads the nation in yards allowed per play and has been dominant against the run, holding opponents to under 100 yards, holding 6 opponents to under 100 yards rushing, and allowing just one to average more than 3.8 yards per carry, which is crazy. So, Tennessee, Ohio State. Both of those teams have top 5 defenses, so I bet this game, I would be betting the under on that game. I don't know about you guys. I hinted at it earlier, but I think Ohio State needs to give the ball to their receivers more. They need to trust Jeremiah Smith and Jigba, and then get your running backs going later. But like, you can't get stubborn and just run the ball into a heavy man front.
Yeah, they screwed that Michigan out. They screwed up trying to flex their selves that they were tougher. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
100%.
in that game, it's like, yeah, you lost by 1 to Oregon. You've done a pretty good job all year, but then the Michigan one, yeah, it's stupid. You've got 2 good running backs, but there's no need to do it if you can just air it out on them. Yeah, and you could have. Michigan has 0 offense. That's all you had to do was just air it out, and they would have beat them.
Yeah, it was crazy. Into what do you say it? How do you say it? Inexplicable? What does that go? I'm gonna cut this out.
Inexplicable.
Inexplicable. Yeah, I'm not doing this. Couldn't believe it. When I was watching it, couldn't believe it. I was like, just get the ball to just change your game plan. You're so stubborn. But coaches are normally.
I think Ryan Day has a mental block when playing Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This is the first one that he's lost, but yeah, because I've been a defender of him, but this is the first one. Like, all right, after that one, it might be time to go,
We'll see.
This is one of the few that's like, all right, you're definitely better than Michigan.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can't beat this Michigan team, you might never beat a Michigan team.
Yeah.
But that aside, in this game, I think that the biggest worry for Ohio State might be their run defense, because like you saw against Michigan, they were able to run the ball on Ohio State, and Tennessee that had the best, one of only 2 SEC backs to go over 1,000 yards in Dylan Sampson. So like their strength is to run the ball. So they might look at what Michigan did and kind of imitate that of like, hey, ground and pound, try to go after Ohio State's probably biggest weakness, if they have a weakness. I mean, Ohio State's just really a really good football team. I wouldn't play them first round, but well, I'm saying throw the ball more. I don't know if Will Howard is the biggest weakness.
I'm with you throwing the ball. I'm saying like in clutch times, he's a little iffy.
He pulled a Dak and against Oregon and ran the clock out running.
Yeah,
that was crazy. But yeah, I'm excited about this game. I think for Tennessee, they need to run the ball. They also average more than 8 penalties a game, so they'll have to play much cleaner than that if they want to win this game. Maybe stay turnover free. That's the key for a lot of games, but in this one especially, you don't want to give the ball back to that Ohio State offense that's just got elite playmakers everywhere. And I don't know, your Nico Iamava.
Yeah, however you say it.
I struggle to say his name, but he's been good a lot of the year, but he's had a redshirt freshman moment or 2 this season, and he can't have any of those if they're going to beat Ohio State. I think I'd pick Ohio State just because they've been there, done that. But I definitely see a path where Tennessee can win that game.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, I think.
All right, and then the rest of the bracket is Arizona State in the 4 seed of the first bye. They'll play the winner of Texas Clemson. Oregon's the 1 seed. They'll play the winner of Tennessee Ohio State. Boise State's the 3 seed. They'll play the winner of SMU Penn State. And Georgia's the 2 seed. They'll play the winner of Indiana Notre Dame. Okay, I want to hear what y'all think about this bracket before I start talking some more.
Inexplicable.
I have 2 thoughts. I thought Arizona State deserved one of the byes, and I didn't want Alabama to be in it. And those things happen, so I'm okay with the rest of the bracket. I just want to see how it plays out,
Yeah. I mean, I did not think the committee would have the stones to leave out Bama after last year.
I thought they were in.
For sure, I thought they were in. So props to them. I've been complaining about it a lot of the year because I feel like they disrespected the Big 12 by putting Boise State in front of Big 12. But in the end, I like this bracket a lot. I like the teams in the bracket. I want to clarify.
Yeah.
I like the teams in the bracket.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't defend the Boise one. That's the only thing. But they've done that all year though. They've had that for some reason.
I guess because Ashton Genty, they just fall in love with that team. Because
I guess I don't know. That or they think Oregon's this, that much better than everybody else.
What did you say, Ashton? Before we got on, you said their best win is their loss.
Yeah. Well, and that's the case for a lot of these teams, I guess. In all reality, but because Texas SMU and Indiana haven't really beaten anybody,
Yeah.
I will say 4 Big Ten teams seems like a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I like that.
If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year if I thought 3 SEC teams were going to make it, I would have definitely thought it was going to be more. Whether it was 4 or 5, however many, I would have thought more would have got in.
Yeah, and the SEC did too. They're going to go scorched earth to change this.
Yeah,
like I'm enjoying it right now, but they will not let this ever happen again.
No, I mean, all the top 6 teams are going to be playing Mississippi State and Vanderbilt every year, probably. From now on, make sure they get those wins.
They're going to change it. They're going to change it. They're going to give SEC 4 automatic bids, and they're going to give Big Ten 4 automatic bids. They're going to change it. This is going to be unacceptable to them.
They'll expand it probably.
Yeah, and I don't know how they'll do it, but they'll throw their weight around. I know it. So I'm enjoying it right now, but I know that there's going to be repercussions for there only being 3 SEC schools now.
I mean, the SEC only has themselves to blame because
no doubt. Well,
their teams beat each other at the worst possible times.
Yeah,
right. But that's what you want. You want that competitive parity.
Well, you're right. Yeah,
and they're going to be mad because they're saying like, "Hey, we're so much better. Why do we only have 3 teams in when we're having our records reflect a better team than what their records reflect?" I guess.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm just saying.
I might disagree a little bit.
I would have to disagree, but. I mean, I think they're the best conference, but I mean, when teams like, who is it? Tennessee lost to Arkansas. I mean, that's not.
Bama lost to Vanderbilt, who lost to Georgia State.
You're allowed in the SEC. You're allowed 2 losses, and you're probably in no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you just got to take care of business. You can't go lose to Arkansas. You can't go lose to Vanderbilt. You can't. I mean, those are just losses you can't have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's the case. I mean, no offense to Jeff, but like if Alabama wouldn't have got killed by Oklahoma, they'd probably be like, even if they would have barely lost to them, I mean, they probably still would have got in, because Oklahoma wasn't as good this year, Well, and I thought they might have.
But you can't lose to us in the way you lose and be in the playoff.
Yeah, because if they would have barely lost, I could have seen them like, they just had one of those games, But well, and that's why I thought they might end up sneaking like South Carolina in. But not after what they put in last week. But they didn't really have as many bad losses. Their losses were all right, and they beat Clemson, which just beat SMU. But
yeah. I would have been upset. I would have been more okay with South Carolina than Alabama resume wise, but I'm happy with how it ended.
I think, if SMU had won their conference, it would have been real interesting to see like all the arguments. I mean, they would have definitely put Bama in, but like I think Bama, Ole Miss, South Carolina all had a great, and I honestly think Miami and BYU had great resumes as well. And I honestly think there was nothing to distinguish them, because when the conferences blew up like they did, and now we have 4, they're so huge that you can't even compare schedules. Like used to, you could compare schedules and you would always have some quality wins because Texas, OU, and, and then there would be 2 other good Big 12 schools, and it's like, okay, those give you credibility. Same thing with like the SEC. They all had to play each other. You didn't have these big conferences where sometimes Texas doesn't have to play some of the harder schools in the SEC. Same thing with the Big Ten. Same thing. Like, so, Indiana getting compared to some of these other schools is not fair because their schedule is not the same Big Ten schedule. They're not playing the same Big Ten schedule that Oregon is playing or Penn State is playing. So, like, comparing these is just near impossible now. Whereas when we had the 5 conferences, it was so much easier, like, to compare the schedules. It's like the conferences exploded at the worst time for the 12-team playoff. That said, since it worked out how it did, since Clemson did take that spot, it kind of made all those arguments like a moot point in a way, especially because they already rated SMU higher than Alabama before they even played the championship game. But it is just crazy to see the variance in, like, it is impossible to compare these teams now. And I think all 5 of those teams that we said all had a case to be in this 12-team playoff, which is part of why I think they're going to expand it, because they want those SEC schools in.
Yeah. Well, and you almost, with the way that it played out, you almost have to, because they've pretty much like made it to where, and they did lose in conference, so it ended up not mattering, but like strength of record, like if you play nobody in the preseason, it's not going to matter, in the non-conference.
Yeah.
Like if you just beat Division II teams, it's not going to make a difference, like as far as like, who you play.
You just mean like that's what you want to do now, because
now there's really the
precedent they set.
Especially since it's expanded. Like last year, it ended up helping Texas because they beat Bama. But now that it's expanded, it's probably not going to come down to that.
Right.
Unless you're somehow
right. You want to be Indiana, who just won the games that they're supposed to.
You lost to Ohio State. That's it. You're good.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's gonna have to change, but I do like. As much as I'm complaining here, I do love that we're arguing about, like, these teams are all getting a chance. All the teams that should be getting a chance are getting a chance. We're not arguing like, oh man, what if? We're arguing, should they have a chance? And it's like Arizona State in the past would have never, ever, ever gotten a chance. Boise State, never, ever, ever gotten a chance. All these teams in the first round wouldn't have gotten a chance. It would have been Georgia, Oregon, and I guess maybe – Texas and
I don't know, probably. I don't know if they would put Notre Dame or
Notre Dame.
State,
Yeah,
State, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like a 14 playoff would not have been adequate for this season.
No,
and I'm like, that is a thing that happened over and over and over and over again in college football. Is like, okay, this 14 playoff is not adequate. This two-team championship game is not adequate. So I'm just excited. I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. Like I'm excited that all these other teams have a chance, even if they get throttled. I think it'll just be – I'm just glad that we're deciding it on the field now. The bracket is weird, though. It's broken. It's not a good bracket.
Say that's kind of been the main gripe that I've seen is the automatic buys.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I like having the automatic bid because it makes the conference championship mean something, So, like, you get a Clemson to where they wouldn't be in otherwise, so they actually have something to play for. So I'm okay with that. But the buys, the way they have it all seated is just messed everything up. Yeah, because Oregon kind of got screwed on the, with the way it ends up playing out. Like they've got a tough path. Like I'd rather be Penn State, So you would almost rather, or like Texas, that 5 seed's kind of the best one. Like it gives you, you don't have the bye, but you've got the best path probably you're playing the worst team in the field and the weakest, that got the bye. So it benefits you.
Yeah, I think Penn State has the best spot, personally.
Oh yeah, I would agree because I was
they
originally
they play Boise
championship.
Yeah, they got SMU and Boise. I would much rather have that if I was Texas than what we've got.
Absolutely.
That my mom has been complaining for weeks that because they've been projecting Boise to be the 4 and get the automatic bye, and she's like, they're like ranked 15, whatever they were ranked. Not 15th, 13th or something. How can they be the number 4 team all of a sudden? It makes no sense.
I think a lot of people that don't watch college football are going to be super confused when they see this.
Yeah, because they've got the other seed too, which is what throws everything off. If you would just probably seed them like this or reseed after this round like you do in the NFL, or whatever, like every round.
Yep.
That would make sense. But
I think you should have the automatic like bids, but not the bye.
Right. Yeah.
And so like, okay, Clemson won, they're in, but they shouldn't have the shot at the bye or bump up Arizona State into the bye, which I think it should have been Boise not being bumped up into the bye. But you get what I'm saying of like now, like you said, Oregon won their conference championship and they're being rewarded by playing Tennessee or Ohio State instead of Penn State, who's getting SMU and Boise State. It's just like,
yeah. Well, and that's like if
they're getting rewarded for losing, and same thing for Texas. Y'all are in the 5 spot now, and Georgia is either going to have to play an undefeated. Well, Georgia's okay; they're fine.
Yeah,
but you get a home playoff game now as Texas. That's awesome. You get a home playoff game against the worst team in the bracket, and then you go on and play the worst.
Which
team
is
of
a lot of the time probably going to be like the second worst team almost, like if they kept on like this every year. Yeah. Like that's probably the 2 worst teams almost in the bracket,
So the variance here is just wild. It's like you should get in and then you should reseed 100%. And like, I think that would fix so much problems here.
Yeah, it would. Cause you wouldn't screw Oregon there. Like if,
Oregon just has the worst spot.
If it goes chalk and Ohio State wins, well, that's okay, but and they'd play Oregon. But because if you ask most people, out of Ohio State and Tennessee, like or as far as Oregon is concerned, like you probably don't want to play Ohio State. That's probably one of the 5 or 6 teams that'd be like, oh yeah, I don't want to play them, probably, because they have lost games, but they can play, like.
And you already played them, and it's hard to beat a team twice.
A good team. And they've done a good job with this bracket of like avoiding repeat matchups. But like it's weird that they have to think about that. Like that's also a problem.
Well, okay. If it wasn't like for the weird rules, do you guys think that like the 4 byes should have been like Oregon, Georgia, probably Texas, and then I don't know, maybe like Notre Dame?
I'm saying get rid of the byes. Have no byes.
Well, you have to have byes. It's a 12-team playoffs. There's going to be byes.
Well, then expand it to where there's not byes. I'm just saying, like, you need to get rid of the byes because it breaks the fairness of the bracket. And it's not like college football has been fair. Like, who are we kidding? College football hasn't been fair for a long time. But to make even your playoffs unfair is just kind of weird. It's just like it's not rewarding the teams that win as much.
Well, Oregon doesn't have to play. Oregon's already in the quarterfinal, though. There's a game they don't have to play.
So is Boise State.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and those teams are not equal, And also,
I think the
as great as it is that Oregon is not playing that first round, they also miss out on a home playoff game, which for the school, would bring in a bunch of money. It would also have the fanfare around it. You would get an experience there that they're just not going to get now. And I get that you don't want to get someone hurt or, but I feel like it's just lessened. Like imagine if Oregon loses this, they didn't have a home playoff game and they lost in the quarterfinals in their first game in the playoffs. It's just like, that's going to be, and that's their reward for being the first team in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, you have to do a 16 team, at least 16 team then.
Yeah.
Well, and I wouldn't be against having a bye. Like Jeff's saying, I think that is part of your reward is getting the bye. It's just with the way it's played out, like the bracket. It's like, this sucks. We're getting Ohio State or Tennessee. Like that's the bad part. Is just I'd much rather have Penn State or SMU. That coming to town.
What if they let Oregon pick which spot they wanted in the bracket?
I saw something about that.
And so Oregon would get first
that's
pick,
a good idea.
Georgia would get second pick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but then it brings in the element of the coach having to decide who they play and if they end up losing.
That just creates more drama in my opinion.
Yeah,
and that's a good point. It's cool. I'm not saying that's how it should be, but like Oregon's getting screwed the way it is, so it should be different than that.
One thing I saw was like have the same 12 go, but once you got the 12 reseed, like as far as that way Clemson is the 12, Arizona State's the 11, like have your same, the 5 get automatic bids, but So it's the same 12 teams, but not the buys are the same. So the buys would just be the top 4 teams, So like once you have the 12, you reseed according to the 12 that are in. That way Arizona State's the 11, Boise's the 10 or whatever, or SMU, whoever it was. But that way it's like that. And I guess the buys would have been, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in that case, it would just the buys would always be the SEC matchup and the Big Ten matchup probably, just because of the way that those conferences are viewed.
Yeah, just the top 4 teams.
I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too, though. Like someone's going to get screwed.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get a favorable matchup.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And then you might have years where there's a Big 12 team that goes undefeated and they might push in, or an ACC. Yeah, that gets the Boise treatment. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think that would be a better solution than what we've got now, but I am still super excited for this. I think this is a step forward in like determining a real champion of a season. All right. Well,
want to give our picks or anything for
what
your thoughts are on who's advancing and all that? Or
we might as well. Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess who wants to start it off? You get to have like the first crack, so it doesn't feel like you're copying anybody.
I mean, I can go first if you want.
All right, do it.
So I'll probably go. So going from 12-5 down, I'll probably go Texas, Ohio State. Before the last game, I probably would have picked SMU, but Penn State and Notre Dame.
So
then
chalk there.
Is that chalk? Yeah, that's chalk. I mean, I feel like the upset that I wanted to pick was Clemson, but I don't know if I really trust Clemson. I don't trust Cade Klubnik. I said at the beginning of the year, that's why I picked Miami. Anyways, then I'm gonna say Arizona State, Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia. And then I'm gonna have Oregon. I don't know, man. That Penn State. I'm going Oregon, Penn State, and then Oregon's gonna win.
Big Ten championship.
This was off
game.
The cuff, so I didn't do this ahead of time, but this is just picking rapid fire there.
So these first two, they're almost toss-ups to me, but give me Texas over Clemson, Ohio State over Tennessee, Penn State, and then I guess I'll go chalk too. I'll take Notre Dame too, which means it won't be chalk probably. But then give me Texas over Arizona State, give me Ohio State over Oregon, Penn State over Boise, and Georgia over Notre Dame. And then give me Ohio State and Penn State national championship.
Okay, another all Big Ten.
Yeah, I didn't think Brady was going to take Penn State, I believe. But.
Dude, their last game really impressed me.
I think they're not bad.
Their loss to Oregon.
Yeah, I did not think that their offense was that good.
I kind of agree. I didn't think their offense could move the ball like they did.
Seeing the life from the offense made me feel a little different about Penn State than I did before that game.
I think they're similar to Ohio State with the Michigan thing, except it's with Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like they're good. They just can't beat Ohio State. I think they've got that same exact thing.
Yeah.
Can't beat Oregon either.
We'll see.
We saw.
Yeah, we have seen.
I'd say one time. In general.
Yeah, I know. All right, you're up, Jeff.
Okay. I will go Texas, which pains me to say, but I think they're the better team. I'll go Tennessee, though, to make it not chalk here. I don't think that the Ohio State losing to Michigan just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and so I'm picking Tennessee. I'm just going to go SMU for fun because, like I said earlier in the podcast, I think they've got some grit, and I think they could win that one. And then I'm going to go Notre Dame because I don't think Indiana can really play with the big boys. Then I'm going to go Arizona State because I think they're just on a hot streak at the end of their season. So I think they're going to continue that on. I'm going to go with Oregon because DG. I'm going to continue to go with my sleeper SMU because I think Boise shouldn't be the bye spot anyways. And then I'm going to go Georgia. Then I'll go Oregon over ASU. I'll go Georgia over SMU, and then I'm going to have Oregon winning it all.
Nice. I think I'd be happy with Oregon winning. I'm going to go Clemson because I'm a hater, and I'm going to go Ohio State because I don't trust redshirt freshman quarterback whose name I can't say for Tennessee. So yeah, that's a lot of disrespect there too. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to go Penn State, and I'm going to go Notre Dame. And then I'm going to go Arizona State. I'm going to go Oregon. I'm going to go Boise State. I'm going to go Georgia. Then I'm going to go Georgia and Oregon. And then I'm going to pick Oregon also. So we'll see what happens.
I want to go back and I want to change my Notre Dame, Indiana. I'm taking Indiana. I didn't want to put Notre Dame in my bracket in the first place. I'm sick of their independency. Join a conference, cowards. Okay, sorry.
Now I can get on board with that.
All right, Jeff's changing his too. Indiana.
No, I'm not. I'm on board with Brady doing it.
I mean, this is kind of Indiana Notre Dame too. Is kind of a prove it game of like both teams. You just really don't feel like either of them is like dominant, but they both have such good records that it's like, well, you got to put them in. So whoever wins that game is going to feel way more legit than the other one, and the other one will feel like a fraud, in my opinion.
What if it's a SMU lost to Clemson, last second field goal? Still fraud if you lose that game?
Well, then it'll depend on how they play against Georgia.
Georgia. I agree.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Anything else you want to say before we sign out?
I'm changing my pick. Arizona State's going to win the Natty.
Okay. All right. We're a Pac-12, pro Pac-12 podcast here. RIP.
Oh, I did actually want to say, I forgot to say earlier, OU just keeps just harming the Pac-12 and Washington State. We destroyed their conference. Now we've taken their coordinator and their quarterback.
How did OU destroy the Pac-12?
By moving OU and Texas moved to
the
that's
fair. I would say
which basically led to the disbanding
of landscape.
The
yeah, it really did. I still blame Texas for that, though.
We would have 3 super conferences right now if it'd be different.
The Big Ten wouldn't be a super conference.
Maybe. All right. Well,
I'm just kidding. I picked Penn State, Oregon. Just
super excited for this. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a short wrap-up podcast if y'all can hop on again just at the end of the whole playoffs just to see. Yeah, just to see if there's like, who got it right, if any of us got it right, anything fun happened. I hope so much fun happens in this 12-team playoff. So thanks again. And everyone, thanks for listening. Sorry for the big breaks between podcasts, but, life's busy. This is a hobby. So we just really appreciate y'all listening and like and share. So maybe it can be more than a hobby one day. Who knows? All right. Love y'all. Thanks for listening. Bye.